Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video, and possibly my last video, because I think I'm going to get canceled and hate speeched, and everybody is going to disagree with me, but I do not care. Today I'm talking about the Flash movie that has came out recently.
Modded movie review.
Okay, so right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and give a spoiler warning. I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds where I talk about other unrelated things before I get into the movie, but spoiler warning, if you haven't seen the Flash movie and you don't want things spoiled for you, come back after you've seen it. Okay, but now to start off with this, I do not want to talk about the Flash movie itself. I want to talk about how I think Warner Brothers low-key fucked up. And by this, I'm not talking about, like I said, I'm not talking about anything with the movie. I'm not talking about anything Ezra Miller related. That's its own different thing. Has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I think that they really messed up with having a bunch of pre-screenings for this movie. And why am I saying that? Because it was great advertising, it worked really well, but when you have people like Tom Cruise saying that this movie was incredible, and you have like almost everybody on the internet unanimously saying this is going to be one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, it puts it at a pretty high level, a pretty high bar, and really high expectations, and I think that that expectation might be why I am thinking this movie is not great. But I honestly have no idea, because I watched it, and I tried giving it like open eyes in my honest opinion, but like I can't tell if maybe I'm skewed because I was expecting more, but I think that this movie was not very great, and I feel like it was missing a lot, and I feel like it was a very incomplete movie, and I want to talk about how I think that some of the pre-screenings and stuff like that was not something that really worked out for them. So something that I do want to go ahead and talk about, I think every single review that I saw for the Flash movie before going to see the Flash movie, I have basically disagreed with everything that they have said, except for one video that I've watched, and I might be a little biased because this is a guy I've been subscribed to for over a year. Nando V Movies posted a movie talking about how this movie is good, but it wasn't really anything super special, and he's one of the only people I've seen on the internet who has openly said that this movie is not great. And I'm coming here to say that I also agree that this movie is not great. So now I'm officially going to be getting into spoilers. I'm talking full on about the movie now. Let's get right into it. So right off the bat, I do want to go ahead and give some positives because I definitely think that there was stuff to like about this movie, and it is by no means the worst DC movie, but it's not as good as a lot of people were saying it was. So I'm going to go ahead and give, some positive feedback. One, the opening sequence was pretty good. A lot of people online were overhyping it, saying that it was going to be like one of the greatest opening sequences ever. I think it was okay. Like, I do think that there was a specific shot of Barry running from Central City to Gotham, and the way that they filmed that was some of the like greatest cinematography we've ever seen in a speedster scene, right? Like, that was a really cool way to show how fast he was going and how quickly he was running through from one side of the world to the other side of the world, basically. And it was a pretty cool shot. I'm not gonna lie, that shot was amazing. Then we get Ben Affleck's Batman, obviously, riding around the city, chasing somebody in an armored car, and he's on his little bat motorcycle, and there's a lot of cool stuff to love with that. But now we get to, like, the fact that there is not really a lot of Flash stuff here that is all that interesting, in my opinion. He saves a bunch of babies in a building, which was fine, but, like, something that bothers me is the entire, like, east wing of a building or something is collapsing, and he saves 7 babies and the nurse who is there. And I imagine there's probably a lot more people who are in that entire east wing of that hospital. Oh yeah, maybe they were able to flee, which is something that's totally possible. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the fact that he only saved 7 people there is not necessarily the coolest thing. Like, we've seen Quicksilver save an entire, like, school in a very similar scene, and I feel like that scene honestly does it much better than this scene does. But I do like the fact that they're trying to set up rules, like, if he doesn't have a high calorie count, he can't run as fast and stuff like that. But something that I do not like about that is they introduce that, but that doesn't become a problem at all in the entire rest of the movie. In fact, almost everything that they have in that first 10-15 minutes of action is just basically throwaway action stuff. And it's cool, and it's nice to see kind of how, like, a scenario where the Justice League is actually together and just, they're actually working together, and kind of like when you see the animated Justice League movie, they have kind of a system, and it's like if Bruce needs help, he calls this person, and if that person's too busy, he calls this person, and it shows that they're superheroes that kind of help out together, right? I think that was cool. I think that was a great concept, and I like the fact that it's accurate to how comic books are where superheroes are like, hey, you were the fastest man in the world. You can literally be here in like 3 seconds. If I need help, why wouldn't I call for help? You know what I mean? Because that's always one of my biggest critiques with Marvel movies is there's a lot of Marvel movies that take place in literally the same city, and there will be like Avengers level threats, and they'll handle it by themselves, and it always bothers me because I'm like, you can literally send one message. Hey, can you come meet me at blah 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 location? I'm fighting Kingpin right now, and then the other person could probably be there in about 10 minutes, and it would be much easier. But I digress. I'm gonna stop attacking Marvel. I don't think Marvel's done anything wrong in the last 2 months. I had to say 2 months because if I said this year, it's a little wrong. I'm hoping Secret Invasion is good. I'm getting off topic. We're going back to the Flash. So that's all the opening sequence stuff that I wanted to talk about. I think that it was okay. I think that it was good, right? Like I can see why people are saying, "Oh my god, this was incredible. It was really great." But once again, don't think it's very special. I do like the fact that they implement the fact that Barry is late a lot because that is something that is very true to his character, and I think that the fact that they included that really made him feel more like Barry to me. I do think that in this movie, I almost said Grant Gustin. Would have been awkward. Ezra Miller's acting in this movie was very good. He was very solid. I think that the way he was able to play two characters, one that's very mature and experienced and knows what he's doing, and one that's like, oh my god, I just got superpowers. Let me go fuck around with that. And he plays both of them almost incredibly well. And I think that there's really not a lot of flaws with the Barry characters in this movie, except for the fact that I feel like we really could have used more time with them, which I'll get into when I'm talking about the climax and how I feel like that ruined this entire movie for me. Because I'm gonna be honest, the first act I think was fantastic. I think it was really cool. He learns that he can time travel. He goes talks to Bruce about it. He's like, I can go back. I can change things. I can make it so my mother never died, and I can make it where your parents never died or whatever. And something that I really like about it is that he, when he's thinking about it, he figures out a specific thing he can do where he won't interact with anybody, but it'll make sure that his mother is still alive. And it's such like a tiny little detail, and I love that because a lot of times when time travelers go back in time, they will go and they will like royally mess up the things. But this showed that our Barry is mature and he knows, oh fuck, I can't just go back and just like be there to save her. I need to affect something that'll save her without it actually saving her, Something else I liked about this movie, they did not reveal how she died, which I think is actually like brilliant, because if there was to be a second Flash movie that followed up this Flash movie, I think it could be a thing where they introduced that the Reverse Flash did kill her, and it does not take away from anything from this movie, and it would not really create any plot holes for the next movie. Granted, I don't think they're going to make another. I had a little controller that was over here, but I don't think that they're going to do anything with this character moving forward. And I think that that's another problem that I have with it is it doesn't really have a conclusion. And I'm not going to be like, oh my god, superhero movies need to have conclusions, because Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, in my opinion, is one of the best superhero movies of all time, and it did not really have a full conclusion. And a lot of Marvel movies coming out recently do not have conclusions. But for this one particularly, a movie that was Flashpoint related and it was supposed to basically reset the universe is what I was expecting from it, that didn't really have a great ending, didn't really do much about, introducing new things and elements that are a part of the world. Like, the only thing that changed at the end of the movie is what Bruce Wayne looks like. And yeah, that could mean that there are bigger implements, but at the moment, that doesn't really seem incredibly likely. But we'll see. Obviously, time can tell. But, as it stands, that's how I feel about it. Something that I liked about this movie as well, Supergirl, I thought that she was really good in this movie. I feel like she was incredibly underutilized, though. The amount of times you see her in the trailer are pretty much the only times you see her. She has a couple scenes. They break her out of prison, which is probably like a 10-minute little prison escape. She's only active in it for about the last 30 seconds. And then, there's the scene where she flies him into the lightning so he gets struck by lightning. That's a scene that happens. That's very short. And then there's the scenes with her fighting Zod. She's probably in the movie for about 3 minutes and 30 seconds or something like that. And it is incredibly disappointing to me because the actress looks like she definitely had the capability of playing a very great Supergirl, and we got nothing with her, which is okay. But I'm like, with such a cool concept, of there being a Supergirl in this world instead of a Clark, and there being so much other interesting things that could have been, discussed throughout this movie. They just kind of have one quick one-liner that explains that Clark was killed, and then they don't really do much with the Supergirl character. She basically just dies. Oh, spoiler alert. Yeah, she dies. And what's it called? God, why am I blanking on his name right now? Michael Keaton's Batman dies. Um, and I think that they're both great, but like at the same time, they were both kind of underutilized. I will say this: the first time Michael Keaton's Batman died, I did get a little emotional. I was like, okay, that's a pretty cool. That's a nice sacrifice. It's great. And what's it called? They start going back in time to retry this fight scene over and over and over and over again. And that's kind of where this movie immediately goes downhill for me because it's a cool concept. And I really wish that we would see it from the other Barry's point of view because we're seeing it from older Barry's point of view. And he's just kind of sitting in what they called a chronosphere or something like that. Or it might have been Colosseum sphere or something like that. But basically, it's the place where he goes to travel back in time. And he's just sitting in there, and we're watching his point of view as the other Barry keeps going back in time and back in time and back in time, doing slight little changes to try to save them. And what's it called? It's kind of like the Doctor Strange episode of What if you've ever seen that, where like he just keeps making things worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and no matter what he does, he can't save any of them. And I think it would have been far more interesting to see a montage of him trying to save them and them dying no matter what, instead of us just watching Ezra Miller just kind of like walk around and looking at the chaos that the other Barry's doing. Like it was impactful, and I can see what they were going for. But in a movie that's supposed to be like an action-packed superhero movie, you cutting off the climax and kind of taking away what would have been one of the cooler action sequences in the movie kind of ruined it for me, right? Like I think that it was pretty interesting, and us getting to watch them redo it one time was kind of cool, but I really wish we got to watch them redo it at least 2 or 3 times before our older and more mature Barry is like, hey, we need to stop this. We're going to ruin the timeline. It's impossible for this timeline to continue. No matter what we do, they're going to die. And I know it sucks, but, and I think that they could have had like a more meaningful man-to-man talk there, and it would have been really great because the heart of this movie really is when Barry and Barry are interacting and seeing how him having his mother in his life is such a massive impact and such a gigantic change of his personality and his character. And what's it called? It doesn't work as well for me that they decided, okay, instead we're kind of going to have them separate for a little bit, and then we're going to have our Barry watch this little cameo fest, which was low-key unsettling. They had Christopher Reeve's Superman. Christopher Reeves is no longer with us, so that was an interesting decision. And they had Adam West Batman in a little cameo, but that was, what's it called? Footage that they already had back in the vault. And then we see Jay Garrick running in one world, and it's played by Teddy Sears. And I'm going to be totally honest, that actually pissed me off. Because here's the thing, I'm totally getting that they're not going to get Grant Gustin or John Wesley Shipp to be in this movie, right? They're both very busy people, and honestly, having a Flash cameo by one of those two Flash actors might be more exciting, and it might take away from the finale, right? But that's already what you're doing here. We have this really cool, like, nice setup. We're getting into this final battle. They're going to go fight Zod and his army. They lose almost instantaneously. And then instead of watching them retry over and over and over again, we don't. We get to see him try once again. And I swear the entire final battle is probably about like 4 minutes. And it seems like they were rushing it just so they can get to this little scene where they can show unfinished CGI of little spheres colliding with each other, which I knew was going to happen based off of the name Worlds Colliding. And they're basically just showing, oh, here's what's happening in this universe, and here's what's happening in this universe, and here's what's happening in this universe, and they're coming together, and it's all Barry's fault. And it's like, cool. But also, this doesn't even really make sense with the timeline thing that you've mentioned. Like, a lot of the problems here make zero sense. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just a giant, like, mess. The continuity made zero sense. It seems like it's very obvious that this movie is indelible. What? developmental hell, and there was a bunch of different scripts thrown around, and this was probably a concept from one of the old scripts that they were like, that is so cool that we have to keep that in, and it just didn't work. It felt like it was really out of the blue, out of nowhere. It didn't really feel like earned, and then I really think that overall, the reveal of Dark Flash being the young Barry was a pretty cool reveal, but at the same time, it would have been a lot more interesting if he was like, some of the time paradox people who basically are like, you've mastered with the sacred timeline or whatever, and they basically like torture Barry or like try to kill him. That's a thing that happens in the Flash TV show, and I think that those are much more interesting than it just being, this other Barry, a future variant of him, where he's trying to save Supergirl and Batman, and he never grows up and realizes that no matter what he does, he can't save them. And I think that it's really weird. I don't know. It just everything with that twist didn't work super well with me, and I thought it was a cool idea, but I feel like the execution just didn't quite hit. And then the fact that they felt the need to add in scenes from other multiverses for like quick little 30-second blips felt unnecessary. And the fact that we saw Nicolas Cage's Superman fighting a giant spider, and that's probably where like half the CGI budget went, is also, once again, really annoying. There were so many better things they could have done to end this movie, and I think that the way they chose to end it was absolutely horribly. But yeah, so after that happens, we now see young Barry is freaking out because he just found out that he is the evil Dark Flash in this movie or whatever. And then the Dark Flash goes to kill our Barry Allen, and then the young Barry steps in front of him, sacrificing himself and ultimately creating a giant paradox and killing the Dark Flash. And then our Flash goes back in time and undoes the thing that he did to save his mother. He has a little scene where he gets to interact with his mother, which is kind of cute and wholesome. And then he goes back to regular time. And they kind of try doing that thing that they do in a lot of Flashpoint paradoxes where after he changes things back to normal, there's little slight things that are different. But the way that it was accomplished in this movie just felt weird. Because now it's George Clooney's Bruce Wayne instead of, what's it called? Instead of Ben Affleck's, and it seemed so stupid and unnecessary, and I don't know, it was just not that great. But yeah, so that was me kind of ranting about it, complaining about it. The movie to me still feels incredibly incomplete. Like, I feel like there was a lot of scenes in the middle that could have been a lot more interesting. I wish that the prison break scene was a little bit longer after they saved Supergirl and Supergirl had her powers. Like, I kind of wish that they had like a tank or something fight her, and she could have, picked up a tank, thrown it at a helicopter or something. Some more cool action sequences for her, because she's just taking out a bunch of like regular soldiers who just have like regular machine guns. And I really am like, you guys couldn't have gotten like one really cool thing for her to fight, because at this day and age, we just saw the Black Adam movie where it's a bunch of people firing guns at a bulletproof dude and he just goes around and quickly knocks them all out. And it's like, it's not interesting anymore. You guys have to do something to flare up your action sequences, and it was just very bland and blah. And then another thing that I didn't like about this movie, our Barry didn't have speed for the majority of the movie, so we didn't get like any cool speedster scenes with the experienced Barry. We just got to watch the young Barry run around like an idiot and do a bunch of stupid things. And don't get me wrong, I think that montage was fun and it served the movie well, but at the same time, we got to see like a little glimpse as to what amazing little speedster scenes we could have had with our Barry, and then they proceed to start just having the new young Barry run around and do stupid shit, and it was very disappointing. But yeah, so those are all my complaints about this movie. Overall, the score that I'm going to give this movie is a solid 73. I think it's okay. I genuinely don't think it is as good as a lot of people hyped it up to be, and maybe I don't think it's that good because people hyped it up to be that good, but I genuinely did not find this movie incredibly enjoyable, and all the things that I was looking forward to in it were incredibly disappointing. So overall, I definitely would say you should definitely go watch the movie yourself, make your own opinion of it, but that's just me giving you my 2 cents. If you guys agree, feel free to let me know down below. If you guys completely disagree, feel free to attack me in the comments. I am willing to have discussions about this movie, because I'm really hoping that somebody out there can like help me see something that I might have missed that makes it a lot better. But in my opinion, a lot of it did not work for me. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.